Welcome to another Sunday Superversive live stream. I am your host, Benjamin Wheeler, and I am here with my co host, Anthony Marquetta. How are you doing today, Anthony?
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. I mean,
Unbelievable.
I guess that's true. Uh, we are back from vacation. Uh,
Yeah.
very nice. I'm feeling rested. I could feel more rested. I could always feel more rested. But no, we're not here to talk about that. Rest is for the dead in Christ, anyway.
You Protestants.
No. What we're going to be talking about is an interesting tweet from Dave Green, the Distributist. The Distributist is one of the mid-lister political commentators who's worth reading. Admittedly, let's say if the top tier is guys like Tucker, and then under him is like Academic Agent and Oren McIntyre, and then he'd be under them. Not in the sense of reach or numbers, but just people who guide the conversation. Um, you know, there's some people like say Joe Rogan or Theo Vaughn who are even taller, but the thing is that they're bought and paid for. Joe Rogan will not do anything to invalidate his Spotify contracts, for example. So it's one of those things where it's like it's interesting stuff. The Distributist has produced some really good work, but his tweet caught my attention and the attention of quite a few others. Uh, he quotes from Camp of the Saints by Jean Raspail. Your universe has no meaning to them. They will not try to understand. They will be tired. They will be cold. They will make a fire with your beautiful oak door. Now, this is talking about, say, immigrants coming in and not understanding your culture, destroying your cultural heritage to keep themselves warm. Um, he has a take on that. Uh, this is, by the way, Oren McIntyre posted that in a response to Dr. Malouf about a Mohammed, like that cuts it down, from Pakistan, attempting to rape a 13-year-old British girl in Bradford. And his wife was defending him. Oh, he didn't know it was illegal. Please, I promise he'll never do this again. Uh, Now, keep in mind that there is a bit of a gap between what is being talked about here, that is to say, the assault of a child, uh, uh, next to what's being discussed here, but it's very pertinent. Dave Green's first post says, but what Raspail doesn't say is explicitly is that the beautiful oak door should burn. It needs to burn because its beauty is idolatrous. Why is that? Examine the teleology of the door, why it was made beautifully. The door was made within the traditions of sacred syncretism to unify the universal divinity of God with the local spirit of the hearth, as above, so below. But then the Frenchman stopped believing in God. Then he stopped believing in the sacred hearth and the family. And now he just has an ornate door, sitting alone, unable to explain its beauty or purpose, trying to justify its existence to desperate people in a dying society. In other words, it's an idol to a dead god. And idols must burn. No human can tolerate the existence of such manifest desecration and be fully alive spiritually. We want to destroy these false promises that can't be made real. The Frenchman doesn't have the grit to destroy the false idols of the past. The migrants do. That might be the reason the Frenchman invited them to his country to begin with. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. In fact, I would even say it's quite difficult. But essentially, the beautiful oak door has lost its meaning within the society, and may even be a dragging down point for the society around it. A good example of this is the many castles and historical buildings within England. They take up a huge amount of budget, time, effort, energy, to the point where many of them should really be let loose into the world, or privately owned or handled in such a way that doesn't burden people trying to take care of them. They're treated as something sacred, when in actuality, they're not like a sacred law, right? Do not murder or something like that. Instead, it's just a fancy building that you might be taken to on a school trip that you have no connection or meaning to, yet creates a whole lot of problems for you, either in the hiring or supporting of people to support it. For example, something like Notre Dame. What is the purpose of Notre Dame within French society? Well, it's just a landmark. They might have mass there on occasion, but really, where once it was the seat of, and I'm sure it still is in its own way, the Archbishop or Cardinal of Paris, where he ruled over the Holy See of France, or whatever the terms are, the Archbishopric and the region. In reality, it's just a landmark. You take your tourists there. It's beautiful. It's an absolutely beautiful place. But it was an altar to reason during the French Revolution. And quite frankly, it never quite got back its spiritual meaning after that. It was used for the crowning of different people, for demonstrations in the site of revolutions and other things like that, but it was as a monument, not necessarily as a church. When it was burnt by either agent provocateur or by a migrant, Muslim agent of some kind, it was designed to attack the spiritual nature of France, its reminder of Christendom. But in reality, a lot of it had already been desecrated. A lot of it had already been destroyed. It can always be revived, of course, but like my sister and mother went there, and it was just a tourist attraction. If there is a special soul to Notre Dame, it's not a living, breathing, enchanted soul in the same way that what we can expect from something more real, something more living. On the other hand, the fire actually revived it. It caused it to shoot up in value and estimation within French culture. They rediscovered their love for it. There was the strong image of the cross standing up among the wreckage. Uh, you can say that there's a certain destruction to it, right? That it could have burnt down, and in reality, it wouldn't have changed much. It may have, at worst, been something sorrowful for the Frenchies to experience, but fundamentally wouldn't change anything. But now it becomes something of a rallying cry against the Muslim hordes, or perhaps the agent provocateur who said it. Uh, the back to the door, if you have a door that's old and ancient and carved beautifully, do you understand the mindset of the person who did it? Do you treat it as sacred? Do you not use it? That's ridiculous. You walk through the door. If you treat the door as sacred, that you cannot use for whatever human means you have lost the ability to treat it as a thing that is beautiful that you enjoy using. And instead, it is, as Dave Green says, it becomes an idol, a stumbling block. Rather than using it as God intends, as a door, perhaps even as kindling, uh, if it's cold and you're struggling, um, you're stuck with it. A seagull around your neck, a millstone dragging you down, and it's a problem. What can you do with it? Well, you're stuck. Certain things have used similar natures, but haven't gotten stuck with it, like say England has with the castles. Another good example would be Pulperev. Pulperev brought the old and into the new generation, but the thing that made it different than say a council house in England is that they actively encouraged the making of new things. In other words, they did not worship the past to destruction, but rather said it's better than the things that we have today, which are, like idols of a different nature. Um, It's better written than anything today. It's worth reading because it's better written. And I think that that's lost in what's some of the discourse is about this. What can we see with it? What can we do with it? If we can't figure it out, then all we have is a stumbling block. Multiple people, have made comments on it. Isaac Young has one of the better ones, where he quotes Tolkien from the Silmarillion, where he goes, "Kings built tombs more splendid than the houses of the living, and counted the names of their descent dearer than the names of their sons. Childless lords sat in aged halls, musing on heraldry, or in high cold towers, asking questions of the stars. And so the kingdom of Gondor sank into ruin, the line of kings failed, and the white tree withered, and the rule of Gondor was given over to lesser men." That might actually be from Lord of the Rings, not Silmarillion, but the same universe. Doesn't matter. What do you think so far, Anthony?
Yeah, so I appreciate you expanding on all of this because, to be honest, I was not this tweet didn't capture my imagination as much as it did you. But it's good to hear your thoughts on it. I don't know. I'm thinking it over. I'm not sure if I agree with him or not. Okay, so this is what he says. Examine the teleology of the door, why it was made beautifully. The door was made within the tradition of sacred syncretism. They unify the universal divinity of God with the local spirit of the hearth. First off, I have no idea if that's true. And this is important, actually, because it's like we're applying our own meanings to the door. Like, I know a lot of artists. We're artists. We know a lot of artists. And not everything I do is some sort of oh, this is supposed to connect with the like, I don't know how to put this exactly, where it's like, we know these artists and not everything that they're doing is some sort of explicit symbolism. That's almost strikes me as like Masonic, if that makes sense, where it's like every single thing needs to be a symbol of something else. I am not convinced that even the older pagan societies were like this. I am certain that the Christian societies are not. Sometimes beauty is important because beauty glorifies God. God made the beauty. You don't really need anything more than that. Like, why is this thing beautiful? Well, the reason I wanted it to be beautiful is because in the Christian society that glorifies God. Is it like the sacred syncretism? I don't really think that is what a lot of them had in mind. And I doubt that the pagan world was really that much different in this regard. This is a basic way of me expanding on why is it beautiful? Well, because we like beautiful things. Now, I would say the reason that man likes beautiful things is because it reminds us of God, but it's the same general principle. Yeah.
Well, and it's that's a good point. The Masons are very famous for their many layers, 33rd degree, and so on and so forth. What happens is that those who get invested in them see the surface level and then maybe a couple levels deeper, and they think, oh, Masonry does not, offend God, isn't, going to separate you from Jesus, and so on. When in actuality, the goal is to get you through a series of logical, meaningful steps and guide your brain, which was once faithful, into a denial of Jesus Christ. Even though it doesn't look like that for a very long time, maybe even years, and depending on how far you go, maybe even never, the end goal will have you doubting Christ. So there's all this meaning and stuff like that. It tickles the brain in the same way that people are obsessed with conspiracy theories, which are very true these days.
Yeah, I've had this argument with people. Like, people will look at, we've had this discussion. We're both defenders of classic Disney, of Disney the person generally, Disney the company generally. And I've seen people go like, no, he included secret occult symbolism in some of his cartoons. And the one they really point to is Donald Duck in Mathmagic Land as like having a lot of occult symbolism. Now, my argument has always been and remains to this day, even if this is true, and I'm really not convinced that it is, but like this is a Masonic misunderstanding of how people work. Because what I mean is, you watch a movie, it has a bunch of symbols. If you don't know what they mean, there is no magic. They just don't mean anything. Like, they're just weird. They just look weird, right?
Yes.
Like, yeah, they might think it means something, but who cares? It's not going to affect you in a negative way.
You're an
Words aren't
8-year-old child.
Yeah, words aren't magic in that sense, right? Like, that's not how that works. They need to actually, like, you need to know what they mean for it to mean anything. You know, you can't accidentally become a Mason. This is one of the things, like, everything that we're seeing, that's the thing I think that people don't understand. Like, and this is, it comes from, like, you know, the 60s and 70s, like, oh, subconscious messages. It's always been bunk because it doesn't make any sense, right? Like, if you think about it for 2 seconds, it's like, okay, the subconscious message that you don't understand, that you don't get, right? Like, Donald Duck made a diamond shape while dressed as a wizard. This is very similar to Masonic ritual. Like, it very well might be, but if I don't know that, that doesn't matter. Like, okay, yeah, you're correct. It is very similar. I don't know that, but it is. So who cares? And this is on, I think this is enough on topic that I'm good for that. But so I'll move back to the main topic, right? So this is what he says next. And now he just has an ornate door sitting alone, unable to explain its beauty or purpose, trying to justify its existence, a desperate people in a desperate society. I think this misunderstands the purpose of beauty. Beauty doesn't justify its existence. And this kind of goes back to my point. He's assuming that there's some sort of greater meaning to the beauty here, when being beautiful in itself is a great meaning. Notre Dame did lose a lot of its meaning. It became a shell of what it was over the years. But Notre Dame has also, like, this is a bit of a misnomer because Notre Dame has undergone many ebbs and flows in its history. Not a lot of people realize this, but do you know why Victor Hugo wrote the original Hunchback of Notre Dame? It actually had nothing to do with social commentary. There was almost no social commentary in the book, which sounds shocking, but it's true. Because the point of the book wasn't to be a social commentary. The point of the book was that Victor Hugo thought that Notre Dame, the cathedral, the actual building, was really neat and it was falling into disrepair. He wanted people to look at Notre Dame and go, what a cool building, and preserve it. And you know what? It worked. The Hunchback of Notre Dame was a massive success story. Like, it accomplished exactly what Victor Hugo wanted it to accomplish. In fact, it was so successful that Victor Hugo literally was, like, rewriting his own work to add these, you know, now common, like, social messages to it when he was alive. Not even that long after it was released, because the original purpose of the book was no longer relevant. Like, this is why, like, you know, people always say, like, oh, like, the Disney movie is so much brighter. There is, may Allah forgive me, a good Lindsay Ellis video. I know. But it's true. I have to admit, even though don't follow her, watch the video on your incognito tab and leave. Anyway, in the video, she points this out where she goes, hey, you know, in Hunchback of Notre Dame, he goes, can you imagine a version where Esmeralda survives and Quasimodo and everyone lives happily ever after? He's like, well, you don't need to go far because it's not the Disney movie. It was written by Victor Hugo. It was a play version, like that Victor Hugo adapted. So, you know, there's a history here, right? Like, and going further, back to the tweet, he says, it's an idol to a dead god and idols must burn. All right. Is this true? So, idols can't survive as idols. This is true. However, I don't agree that the only way forward is to eliminate them from existence. Like, or in, I'm trying to think of how to put this because that's wrong. I do want them eliminated qua idols, but here's what I mean. Did you know that in Rome, famous for its many, many churches, one of the most beautiful churches in Rome is, I'm going to look up the name actually, because the point of the story depends on me not telling you what it is so that you're shocked by the end of it. You're not going to be shocked, but
I could
Hold on.
pretend to be shocked.
Yes, just pretend. Just pretend. Yeah.
I'm preparing.
I'm Googling the name of the church because it's known by another name. The Basilica of St. Mary and the Martyrs. There we go. Okay. There is a church in Rome, a very ancient church, since AD 609. Hey, wow, Wikipedia never got to this page. It's still called AD 609. That's interesting.
Well, don't tell them.
Yes. BC and AD are still on the page. Somebody missed the edits. Anyway, it's called Basilica of St. Mary and the Martyrs in Rome. It is a rotunda church. It's very famous. Very beautiful church. It actually comes from the 2nd century. It is a Roman temple known as the Pantheon. So if you go to Rome, you probably aren't going to go, I want to visit St. Mary and the Martyrs. You're probably going to say, I want to visit the Pantheon. Well, you can. The Pantheon is a Roman church. It's a Catholic church to this day. There is an obelisk sitting in St. Peter's Square from Egypt, an obelisk to Egyptian gods. It is displayed in St. Peter's Square. I forget what it's dedicated to. Obelisk, St. Peter's. I could check that too. I think it might be the obelisk of Theodosius. No, that's in Constantinople. But either way, like there's an obelisk in St. Peter's. What the Christian church historically did was baptize these things, essentially, right? Now, there is less of that than people think. I think if I were to bring this up as a possibility to what's his name, David Green, what he would say is, well, they're clearly not capable of doing it, so they should just burn it down, right? And that's why they brought in the Mohammedan to burn it down, which is, I think that's completely false. That's clearly, they brought in the Mohammedan. They didn't want their heritage destroyed. I mean, some of them did. The elites did. The people were just weak. This is how it always goes. It was weakness. It had nothing to do with being like, oh, we symbolically want to destroy our past. Like, no, that's the elites. This is that hideous strength.
Yeah, the elites want to do it. Yeah.
Right. This is that hideous strength in action. In fact, it's exactly what it is. The great prophetic book by C.S. Lewis, his novelization of the brilliant essay Abolition of Man, one of the great 20th century essays, and that hideous strength is not his best book, but it is his most prophetic book. And in that hideous strength, Lewis makes it very clear what's really going on. There is a small group of elites who consider themselves above society, essentially the equivalent of Masons, in fact. Masons are this group. This is why you see Masons among the founding fathers, among other groups, right?
Just so you know, this is spoilers for the 2026 season of Sunday Superversive Livestream, where we go after the Masons quite hard.
Oh, if we do that, I'm going to have to read all of the Catholic Church's encyclicals on Masons, because the Catholic Church has written more encyclicals condemning Masons than any other group.
No, I was joking, but it's like
a real topic.
No, it is a real topic, but it's like you bring up, like Jews all the time, but listen, guys, have you thought about Freemasonry? It's hip.
Yes. Actually, it's no longer in vogue, possibly because of the many encyclicals of the church back when it still had social clout. Like, I'm not even kidding about that.
Oh, but, and Protestants too. Let's leave off on what we're talking about now. But there were many Protestant churches who were against it as well.
Like, I'm not accusing Protestant. Yeah. Like, I just know that the Catholic Church was very, very, like, I don't know what the Protestants did. I just happen to know that the Catholics were like super intense against it.
It was a universal church movement, as in all churches except for maybe the Orthodox went for it.
Yeah, the Orthodox were too far away for it to matter to them, since they were so ethnic, frankly. But anyway, So this is what he says. He just says it. We're going back to the tweet. He stopped believing in the sacred hearth and family. I mean, I don't believe in the sacred hearth and family, not in the sense that he seems to be talking about it. Says the Frenchman stopped believing in God. Yeah, that's bad.
Well,
Then he stopped believing.
the Sacred Hearth and Family we'll go back to after
Sure.
a few minutes.
Well, so I think that there is a certain sacredness to the family and a certain sacredness to the hearth as a domestic church. That's how it's talked about in Catholic theology often. But he talks about it as a sacred syncretism to unify the universal divinity of God with the little. But again, I don't really think that's the purpose of a beautiful door. I think that the purpose of the beautiful door was to be beautiful. We like beauty because beauty reminds us of God, because God is the most beautiful thing of all.
And to be adored.
Yes. In other words, it's an idol. So he says it's an idol to a dead god, and idols must burn. No human can tolerate the existence of such manifest desecration and be fully alive spiritually. We want to destroy these false promises that can't be made real. I am trying to parse through exactly what he means by this, and I'm having trouble. So, no human can tolerate the existence of such a manifest desecration and be fully alive spiritually. I mean, yeah, but didn't he just spend a lot of time saying that the Frenchman is already dead spiritually, and that's why he wants it destroyed? Like, they are dead already. They're dead spiritually. And again,
like I said, with the desecration of Notre Dame, it revived a certain amount of the French spirit.
Right. Like,
not much, and it faded, but you know what I mean.
Right. And again, Notre Dame, that's a good example of why I wouldn't do this, because Notre Dame goes through cycles and has historically. If you were to just destroy it every time that the zeitgeist went away because, oh, nobody worships there anyway, it's dead, like, then you would lose the ability to revive it. You know, you shouldn't be doing that. This is a way of being like, the Frenchman doesn't have the grit to destroy the false idols of the past because they're not false idols, right? Like, these aren't false idols. This is what's confusing me. And he's going, oh, but they want to destroy them. But you just said like that it makes them spiritually dead, but they are spiritually dead. So are they spiritually dead or aren't they? And if they are spiritually dead, then like I'm confused at what you're seeing here. And again,
I thought I interpreted as they worship the beautiful door, if you get me.
Sure, like they don't view it as what it is. They don't view it as meaning what it is. But again, this assumes that there's no value in beauty in and of itself and that there's no way to revival. There's always a way to revival. This is a thing. It's a very boomer attitude. And I'm not criticizing David Green. I don't even know if he's a boomer or whatever. Like, I'm not even saying that he holds this view. I doubt he does. I bet if I asked him, he would deny it. But the boomer attitude that I'm going to criticize, because I've had discussions with boomers that are very much like this. It's what we mock and call like the nothing ever happens attitude, right? You talk to a boomer and then you go like, well, we're going to hit an economic depression. The boomer doesn't believe it. They never do because it's never happened to them. Never mind the fact that less than 100 years ago, a worldwide economic depression happened. It can happen, right? The government is going to collapse. Someone will predict. The boomer will tell you that everybody always predicts this. It never happened. This is myopic. It didn't happen in your lifetime. In the 1860s, there was a war that ripped the country in half. Like, it wasn't that long ago. You know, people act like these are these massive frames of time or strands of time. Or you go like, people are going to get martyred within the next 100 years. No, that will never happen. Really? You think America is better? Like, it's happening all over the world. It's happened in better societies than ours, right?
Yep.
And you think it will never happen. By the same token, though, you have the same attitude in reverse where you go, I think, and I've had this conversation as well, Europe eventually is going to rise up and become Christian again. And they will tell you that will never happen. I don't see how it can happen. The world is too different. Things are going to change, as if human nature has suddenly changed, right? Technology has changed human nature in such a way that will never happen. A reconquista, that will never happen. Europe will never do it. Their nature has changed too much. That's a ridiculous response. Of course, it will happen eventually, right? Like,
Yes.
given enough time, you know, of course, we are on a track to, there is an end of history, as weird as we say, except that we've read the book of Revelation. The end
Yep.
of history is going to be very different than what people think. What's going to happen is that the church is going to become a stronghold in a hostile world until eventually there is going to be a deceiver that rises up. And we're on that. So that track is coming. Then Tolkien was right. We're in the long defeat, right? Until the eucatastrophe that happens at the end. The church is ultimately going to be a small but loyal stronghold.
Yes.
And that's what's going to happen. Nevertheless, it's like, yeah, the church is going to hold out. That is going to happen. Like, this idea that boomers have, it's a myopic view of history, frankly. Like, this
Yep.
will never happen. This can't happen because it didn't happen in their lifetimes. Predictions made in their lifetimes were wrong because there are always going to be wrong predictions. It doesn't really mean much, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, there wasn't a massive Great Depression in the lifetime of the boomer. That's great. I mean, there was not that long before them, though. So, like, it really wasn't that, like, it hasn't been that long since the Great Depression. Oh, there won't be a World War III. I mean, there were two World War Ones that happened, like, not that long before. So I don't really see why you say that. Because of nuclear weapons? No, that's ridiculous. That assumes, again, that human nature has changed due to the technology.
Yes.
Like, that's not going to happen. Europe is inevitable. Europe's fall to Islam is inevitable. It's different now. Like, no, it's not different. One day the people will get tired of it. And there's a very negative assumption that the people have changed in a way that I don't actually think is as true as people think. Because
Yep.
it's Lou, this is Lou. This is the goal of the elites. They want you to think you're outnumbered, right? They want you to think that we're going to be defeated, that there is no way back. They
Yep.
want you to think that's what it is, but it's not true. It's never true. That's that hideous strength, right? That's the point of that hideous strength. It's a small group of elites who are driving things and misleading the population. And once you realize that's all smoke and mirrors, they have no power. That's the secret of the devil, right? The devil is nothing. He has no power. He can't do anything.
Yep.
He's a joke, right? Like that's the entire point of the New Testament is that, we battle against the world, the flesh, and the devil. But when you think about it for a second, it's the world, the flesh, and the devil versus God. There is no battle. Like,
Yep.
they're going to lose. They're going to lose. Everybody knows they're going to lose. They know they're going to lose. Their only goal isn't to win. They know they can't win. Their goal is to do as much damage on the way as possible. And the elites, for that matter, might think they can win, but the reason they think they can win is because they've been duped by demons. Like, they can't. So
It's a weird balance where it's like they think they can win and they want to win and they hate everything beautiful. If there's a cross, especially on that door, an ancient monument to God, they hate that most of all. And they do it, not because of some sort of like, infinite gain. The joke about Bill Gates having a body double he tortures to alleviate his karmic debt, is honestly, I believe it because he's a weird little rat nerd. And he's always been a weird little rat nerd. He's had government contracts since before he graduated college. These people are deeply unserious when it comes down, beyond, their business things. And quite frankly, if you're not directly involved in the business itself, it doesn't mean anything. It should never mean anything to you. Even Jeff Bezos, he can't even keep himself from being cocked. Like these things are so little, yet they have so much sway. Even somebody who's nominally more on the right wing side than not, like Peter Thiel. Not that he is to be trusted. He is has so many holes in these stories that he has in the Peter Thiel Talmudic network. Don't you know, friends? Don't you know? Heard it here first. Don't you know? Uh, that what can you say about these things? What can you do with it? In reality, oh no, they're harvesting your data, the data that your internet provider already harvested, that your government's already harvested, that your government was desperate to harvest for decades, even before you were born. Like all these things people talk about and waste time on, never affects anybody except the people doing the activities themselves. You can't you can't put any faith in it. You can't put any mindset in it and remain a serious person. They're all hellbound. They choose their own lusts. And even then, for someone like Jeff Bezos, he can't even act out his own lusts. It's pathetic. And he'd lose it all if he became a Christian.
Yeah, so all of this is to say, going back to the original tweet, I think this idea that like we should be burning down these monuments of the past because people don't understand what they mean is too short-sighted. And it ignores the fact that history is not an arc, right? Revelation doesn't describe an arc towards an inevitable endpoint. It describes a push and pull with dramatic changes and things,
Yes.
insofar as it means, as we can grok what it means. Like this idea that we need to destroy, again, Notre Dame is actually a great example for multiple reasons, because Notre Dame has gone through a push and pull since its creation of like, oh, how much does it matter? And meanwhile, throughout that entire time, by the way, it has always been used as an actual church. Like, people do worship there. People have worshiped there. There was never a time where people didn't worship there. You might say that the spirit of France is gone, but like the spirit of anything is going, like all human societies are going to fall. They're human, they're human. They're not eternal. That's how it works. Like they're not the societies of God. Yeah, I'm thinking this over. Like, and what we were talking about with like the boomers, the thing that bothers me about this is that like you get this weird assumption that the world's going to remain in stasis. And if I had to guess why, it has to do with the fact that the Cold War didn't go the way that they thought it would. Everybody was expecting a nuclear attack to happen, and it just didn't. This created the nothing ever happens memes, right? Like, oh, the world is going to end. Meanwhile, there was just never a nuclear attack. It didn't happen. Okay, then I guess it just doesn't happen, right?
And personally, like I push that further. I go, actually, it was never going to happen. Well, no, we were really scared. We had drills for it. Yeah, and it was never going to happen. But they constantly told us it would happen. And to me, there's a different mindset. It was never going to happen is not nothing ever happens. Things happen all the time. In fact, I've been very vocal about the fact that God is preparing something big to happen, because he's been sending out signs of absolutely wild events like a bison boiling itself alive in Yellowstone, or a white horse running red with blood and charging through the streets of London, or wherever it was. I think it was London. Like you like ignore those at your own peril. Like it's like it's like there's a difference. Nothing ever happens is wrong. It was never going to happen is correct.
Yeah, it's always, Bradford Walker says, I have friends who suspect that the nukes don't work. Vox brought up that idea recently. How would I know? To be honest, over time, the more I've realized that even speculating about these things is foolhardy. We've had this discussion before, but there's a weird thing where I go like, it's hard for me. I've stopped mocking people who claim like really ridiculous things, because I've realized that I can't justify most of my beliefs myself, and I shouldn't be dogmatic. Like, if someone were to say that the world is flat, Now, people will tell, I have never proven that the world is not flat. For all I know, they could be right. Now, before someone says anything, go, no, there's many proofs that the world isn't flat. You very well could be, or in fact, I would say you're probably correct about this, but I haven't confirmed any of them myself. I just haven't. Like, you could tell me, yeah, no, here's this proof. Look at this video. Okay, yeah, but I didn't solve the proof. I haven't, right? Like, so maybe the world is flat and I'm just wrong. Yeah. Heliocentrism is another one. This is why Michael Flynn's amazing series on the Galileo affair is absolutely required reading. I can't remember the name of it. If you just look up Michael Flynn Galileo, you'll find it. The late Michael Flynn, the science fiction author, he wrote a series of articles that were published like in magazines, and then he reposted for free on his blog called, I think it was The Great Ptolemaic Smackdown. Very entertaining series, but unbelievably
entertaining name.
Yes, unbelievably informative series that was basically like the way that we understand the Galileo affair is oversimplified to an extreme degree that even when it's being corrected by like Catholics who are like, no, it's not what you think. Like even that's an oversimplification. It isn't what you think. Well, it's also not, it's so much more, right? The short answer is that Galileo at the time believed a theory of how the universe, of how the heavens and above moved, that was a minority position that was not supported by the evidence. Like, it actually comes down to like the evidence at the time wasn't in Galileo's favor. The best evidence that we had, there were like 7 theories floating around of how the heavens moved. The Copernican theory was only one of them. And frankly, based on what we knew at the time, it was not very likely to be correct. It implied like you needed epicycles. You know how people make fun of epicycles that made the Ptolemaic system work? Well, you needed epicycles to make the Copernican system work. That's why Kepler's system, which was also heliocentric, was considered a different system from Copernicus, because instead of having things move in perfect circles, they moved in ellipses, which was clearly more accurate to what we saw. And there was an even bigger problem associated with all of this, which is that, hey, so we're observing how the heavens move. The only problem is, based on the physics that we know at the time, this is impossible. To which the astronomers would reply, look, man, I don't know what to tell you. I'm only telling you what I see. Like, this is clearly what is happening. And they go, right, but that can't be right. And then they go, okay, but it actually is right. You just look. Aaron Van Treek says some countries' nukes might not work, but saying they're all duds is a pretty wild take. Sure. Like I said,
mean, we did nuke something twice.
Yeah, supposedly. I've never been to Hiroshima.
I wasn't there in 1945.
Yes.
I keep using my time
I do
machine
think
to
that
see
there
Jesus
were.
Christ. And there's this weird dude with a lot of eyes telling me not to.
Go Home.
Yeah.
The Go Home comic. Have you seen that?
Yes, except it's more of an angel. And
great comic, by the way.
It is.
But anyway, yeah, like that's besides the point, though. We only brought it up in passing. The only thing that I'm saying is like this idea that things are always going to continue the way that they are forever is simply not correct. It's ignorant of the way that the world works. Like, it's a very boomer take on history. The idea that we are going in this direction and we will continue going in this direction forever. And again, it stems from like very frustrating conversations that I have actually had with boomers, right? Where they go like, where if you predict something, they'll go, yeah, people always say that. It won't happen.
People always say that.
Right? Like, people always say, like, really? It did happen in the 1930s. That was back in the 1930s. That wasn't that long ago. People are still alive from the 1930s.
Barely, but yes.
Barely, yes, but yes. right? Like it was less than 100 years ago. You're saying that that will never happen again, ever. Or like, I think America, this is the other thing too, I think like people don't understand. And it's that when great events happen, it will sometimes take time before you realize it is a great event, right? Like
Yes.
Vox has been predicting the fall of the United States in 2035 for some time and has not altered his prediction, right? Okay.
Right.
Fair enough. The question is, if we lived through the fall of the United States, or what we consider the current United States, will we A, recognize it as such, or B, grasp that it is as big of a historical event as we think? To be honest with you, I suspect that the answer to both questions for a lot of people is going to be no. Certainly, just like with the fall of Rome, there are going to be certain people who are in the event who it's going to be a big deal for them. Like if you're in Rome,
Yes.
right? But if you are in, say, I don't know, Germany or something, uh, a province of the Roman Empire, you're not going to learn about the fall of Rome for several months. Like,
Maybe even a
oh
year.
yeah, Odoacer is the king now. Uh,
Who? Right. No, no, but I do know what you mean.
yes, like that's for people who don't know, that's the Goth who declared himself emperor after sacking Rome.
Yes.
I think he was Goth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was I think Ostrogoth maybe?
Yeah. Like most of the world's like, oh, you just lived through the fall of the Roman Empire. And they would just kind of shrug and be like, did we? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, and this is true of most things, Byzantium falls, Constantinople falls. Granted that a lot of like the movers and shakers at the time did track that this was a really big deal at the time because they were very upset by it. But even then, it's like if you didn't live in Constantinople, someone might go, oh man, it's a really big deal. But it would be a really big deal in the same way that if China had a revolution today, right, and was taken over by a new government, would this be a big deal? Certainly, but would my life appreciably change? To be honest, probably not, at least for a while, right? Like,
Yeah.
it would matter, I suppose, but it would just go in the history books. This is what the fall of like most of these places was like. So if America, quote unquote, falls, sure, it will matter to some people who are in whatever the blast radius is, probably.
Yeah.
But I suspect for a lot of the country,
I might lose a cousin.
Yeah, I hope not. But I suspect for a lot of the country, it's just going to be like, cool. Now what?
Neato.
Yeah, like this is one of the things too that always frustrates me. Right, when Biden's elected, we knew it was a fake election, and I would go, I think people are kidding themselves when they talk about a revolution. Right, like, oh. Because I always would say, and I go, I'm going to be honest. If Biden went on TV today and said, I'm not going to lie to you guys, the election was stolen. It's too late now. I am president. Would you join the militia and fight? I wouldn't. Nope. I'm telling you right now, I simply would not do that. Would you sign a referendum saying that you declare independence if Biden said, also, anyone who defies us, we're sending the army, right? I wouldn't. Like, I would keep my head down.
I wouldn't even if I was capable of it. I know plenty of people who just wouldn't even if they were capable of it. And I know some people who are definitely capable of it. Like, it's like this. Okay. You go up to a guy who I used to know in the army. Hey, you're 55 years old. You wanna rebel against the place that you fought for? He'd look at me like I was stupid, and I don't mean just like dumb. I mean like this puppy is so retarded it is trying to drown itself in its mother's milk. Like anyway. Like people have this weird people have this just like absolutely strange desire for like this revolution, this action. But in reality, when they look at it, like say those guys down in Arkansas with the white only community, which, by the way, there's tons of those in Missouri. Just so everyone knows, it's just that they don't get public. All right, and they keep some black homeless guys around for the view of it. It's easy. It's relative. It's entirely easy to do it. Um, you just don't be an arrogant about. You just don't declare it. You just do it. But it's like back to the sort of topic is like with the rebellion and such. It's like no, like nobody's doing it. And if you were the type to do it, you would have already been doing it, and you would have already been on a watch list, and you're probably going to get drone struck. Because let's be real, the people who would take power in our country are not the type to bloody their own hands. They'll just drone strike you, they'll drone strike your family, and any survivors are going to get transed. That's it. You know, that's all you got. Thank you for the revolution.
And I'm not saying like, people go like, oh, well, just having guns, you can't fight. And then they show the meme, like the Stone Toss comic of Afghanistan waving goodbye. It's like, yeah, okay, sure. But are you willing to do that is the question.
Yep.
Like, you're absolutely right. Like, I agree that we probably could. I wouldn't. Like, and this is where it gets like, if we have whatever we would call the fall of the US, I suspect it's not going to be nearly as dramatic as people think. To be honest with you, probably it's going to be some sort of segregation, right? If I had to guess who would go first, I would think it would probably be California, if anything. It would depend on if the MAGA train ends up in power or not. I think Vox's recent take on this, he posted someone who gave a take, is correct. MAGA is a compromised position. It always has been. It always will be. This is why Trump has always been far worse than the left wanted and not nearly enough for the right, because he's a compromise, because he was always a compromise. Now, he's better than we ever could have hoped for. And the question, and I still think it will probably eventually, that's going to end up being too much for certain segments of the country, right? Like, there's already some rumblings of like California. Oh, is California going to secede? Well, if anything happens, I do think that's probably going to be like the quote unquote breakup of the US. That's going to be what it is, right? Like, it's going to be someone seceding.
Yep.
And if I had to guess who, it's either going to be the conservative South, right? Like the deep South, or it's going to be the liberal West Coast. Like, or I guess leftist better than liberal. And once it happens, probably what will happen is I think there will probably, like, there's all these things of like, oh, we're going to turn to the Balkans. We might. That's always a possibility because, again, we're not boomers, so I don't reject these things out of hand. Violence can happen. It is a possibility. However, I suspect more likely is simply that we're going to come to terms and agree to it.
Yeah. Like, I think people
that would be smarter.
things. But let's we've wandered far afield. And even I can't see how to bring us back.
Well, we wandered far afield, but I do think this is related because it kind of gets to my point, which is that he wants David Green is saying we got to destroy these things. And in fact, we should destroy these things because they're idols to a past that we no longer recognize, which in turn makes them sort of blasphemous is how I would describe it. He doesn't use that word, but right. They're like blasphemous. Yeah. But I don't agree with this because I don't think it's inevitable. I don't think that there is no way back.
Right.
Like, I don't think that we're on an arc of history that means we're never going to reclaim it. And I don't think that the value of these things is in like what they represent, the meaning of every symbol. I think that beauty is its own value. So in summary, that's my fundamental disagreement, I guess, with David Green and what he's saying here. There's too many there's too many examples of, the return meme, right?
Yeah.
And we're in the position. There was a great post by like a lay theologian I follow named James Chastek who called like the eternal Jeremiah, where he says like every generation you're always Jeremiah, where you're either things are going so well that we have forgotten God and a reckoning is coming, or you're in the middle of the reckoning,
Yes.
right? Like, and he goes, now people are going to take this and take it me to be saying, oh, I'm downplaying how bad it is by saying it's always like that. That's not what I am doing. I am saying that everyone is right. It is as bad as they say every time. And we always need to be Jeremiah.
Yes.
And he is correct. We are in the position of where we need to be the eternal Jeremiah, right? We need to we need to recite the eternal Jeremiah. We need to wail and gnash our teeth and tear our clothes and weep at the folly of our country.
Yes.
And we need to always be wary when things are going well that the reckoning to come will be greater and more terrible than ever we imagined.
Yep. It's like with the likes of Donald Trump and stuff like that. It's very much how do I want to put it? It's very much like a reprieve, right? We gain some benefit here in the sense of we don't have to worry about it for the next few years. We get to see Stephen Miller deporting all these legal immigrants personally and stuff. Maybe we won't see a fall of the Roman Empire kind of situation for a while, and that'll be pretty sweet. That's nice. I appreciate it. Under
Mm-hmm.
Biden, things were really, really frustrating. It was frustrating for me. It was frustrating for everyone else. There just seemed to be so much going wrong and so much causing us issues that, what can you do? Uh, you have to get over it sometime. Like you're stuck in a balance. Like, and I think I'll bring us back into Dave Green here. Is that we're trapped a lot by the old things that we almost worship. Um, like with certain things of the rule of law, or with civil rights, or with female suffrage, and all these other things. Like we're trapped by it, and we don't actually move forward. It's like somebody, sort of like sitting around a dead fire. The fire might be there. There might be some warmth in the embers, but quite frankly, if you're a white man, these things you have to pay attention to. The fire, the cold's coming in. You don't have a door anymore. Someone stole it. It's gypsies all the way down. There's these things are happening. And the worrisome thing isn't, oh, you have to go take action. It's, hey, this is happening to the daughters of others. This is happening to the women around you, that they're dealing with Muslims and Hindus who have no conception of women as women, as human beings. you know they're harassing women in the street. It might be worth your while to walk your daughter to school or something like that. Or like what I do is I've got plans and back plans. If like my dad dies, and where's my mom going to go? Okay, she's going to go here. We have this place set up for her and this old folks home. It's like one of those things. It's like, do you have a plan? Do you have an idea of what's going to happen? Can you do what you can with it? And for some women, and men as well, for some boomers, like, they don't get it. They'll never accept you're trying to replace the door. Um, but hey, you got to do what you can. I think there's also a misconception on beauty here that I think people are missing out on. Those old doors were made very well. They are objectively more beautiful than any average door made today. However, they were the average door of their times. Uh, some of them were surely much more garbage than not. Uh, but the thing is that now, our stuff is so ugly that even what was for them absolutely normal, bog standard, um, it seems wondrous to us. Like, oh my goodness, you see these doors, beautiful, beautiful doors. Uh, but in reality, um, like it's just their door, man. Like as much as it's sad to say, like all it is a door. If they could have made it cheaper, they probably would have. They didn't have the machining tools we did. Uh, excuse me a second. Someone's trying to contact me. They didn't have the machining tools we did to get things done. Um, that comes with like all kinds of not duties and responsibilities or anything ridiculous like that, but it does come with an idea of how things are going to look. Um, with a door from the 17th century, it's bound in iron, it's got wooden slats to it, it's all joined so well. The spikes that keep it together are so well made, and it swings freely on a hinge. You know that a master built this, or at the very least a skilled journeyman. But you go to Home Depot today and you see a door, and it has like maybe six rectangles on it. You know exactly the type of door I'm describing. But my door to my apartment is just plain white. It doesn't look like anything. It's just a door. Like, would I prefer to have the beautiful door from the 17th century hung in my apartment? Absolutely. Like no question about it. That's a much more beautiful door. But the thing is that like its function, I keep coming back when I read this stuff, and I'm very much in agreement with David Green overall. But it's like I keep coming back to the idea that it's just a door, and if it broke, they'd replace it, and they wouldn't think about it. um like I said, mentioned something about the family and synchronization and the sacredness of the family. A lot of that stuff comes from the ancient city and similar books like Kulong, to who talks about it, but I think it's exaggerated. If you look at the lives of men like Cato, it's very clear he disrespected the shit out of his son. uh, he ignored him when he got called out by him, and he, in general, just kind of did whatever he wanted, whatever his little moralistic heart desired. Um, I keep coming back to this. It's like, yeah, sure, he kept up the censorship in the Roman Senate, but at the same time, it's like, he kicked out a man for kissing his wife in front of his children, but at the same time, now his son's watching him chase around a concubine. Like, for Pete's sake, maybe he went into a second infancy or something. But it's like, would someone like Cato, who knew the old law, who was a part of it, who breathed it, he still he acts like a boomer. He's not, like, or something like Alexander, or the Greeks of those times. You hear about a Spartan general, in the time of Agesilaus, who married for money and not the state, and they fined him for it. But it was still probably worth it for him to marry this a rich woman who wasn't very eugenic. Or things like Athens, they exiled people, but at the same time, they had many foreigners in their trade city, and they had people who married for money all the time. I've read the lives of the Greeks and Romans. I've actually read it in greater detail than I have the Iliad or the Odyssey and the Aeneid. These these guys seem to only have the family when it suited them. When we look at things like um, the medievalists, they did have a stronger family structure, it seems, than some of the Greeks and the Romans. But at the same time, they had a much more localized mindset. They had a local worship. They had different saints of different locations. That's why there's a different saint in every location in something like England and France. But in America, they seem to use Guadalupe a lot. there's a lot of repeat names that I found in my travels. It's not the same, and that's because it was a Protestant nation with Catholic immigrants, but also because it's like the history, the localization isn't there the same way. And so you did have a much stronger sacred quote unquote family in the medieval period than you did in the ancient times. Uh, I can't imagine the sacred in something like a hut in Scotland, one of their like on the lake huts where you had the pigs and dogs running about your feet, and you're fishing and you're doing this and you're doing that, and you're constantly laboring to make sure you don't starve to death, which is fine, of course. The like you don't have the mental capacity to do the sacred other than worship at your little petty gods. Um, like yeah, these things are beautiful, but at the same time, all we have left of these huts out in the lochs are upright pillars keeping the straw from the water. It's clear that they didn't view this type of hut as sacred. Um, in reality, I think there's a boom and bust cycle. Uh, that things are beautiful and then things are ugly and then things are beautiful, or things are useful and then things aren't useful and then things are useful again. Um, there's times when doors have been of different designs. You can actually trace them across the different buildings that are being made throughout the centuries. Um, the sacredness is something that does need to be replaced, does need to be sent away time and time again, and brought back time and time again. I think as we're leaving the boomers, who were, of course, worshipers of society and their personal peace and affluence, as Francis Schaeffer says, that we will value things for their beauty, but at the same time, I don't think we'll worship the old things as much as people think they will. They need, like my friend Nathan Hood says, the old things need to be made to be useful to us, not the other way around.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, old things seem to be made useful to us, not the other way around. I like that. Uh, that's a good turn. That's a good turn of phrase. We're. It's sad because I'm communicating with a lot of the right, and it's very clear that the more rational ones are the ones who are, for lack of a better word, blackpilling, right? Like,
Mm,
and it's all blackpilling. I think it's from a certain point of view, right? Like,
yeah.
basically, you have to give up on the idea, and this is absolutely true, that you're ever going to achieve mainstream success. Um, you're not going to. It simply will not happen. For that matter, it basically doesn't exist anymore, except that it's artificially created. Now, can you
Yep.
support yourself with art? Probably, but it's very difficult. And it's not going to be an easy life. So there's problems with that as well. The way
It's like
that I have,
imagine writing short stories all the time.
Mhm. Or alternatively, we've mentioned this before, but you can become, and the archetype here would be like a John Delarose. Most people won't want to, right? Like John Delarose has turned himself into a brand. He says whatever, not knowing that it will make people mad, but not caring. But also, this gets in clicks and it works. Like, you know,
Yep.
I'm
But
not
it
saying it's
also
out. I'm not saying John Delarose, to be very clear here, I want to be careful. I'm not
mm,
saying that John Delarose is outrage marketing, right? Like, I'm not accusing him of, I'm trying to think of the word, like, I'm not accusing John of being like, oh, I'm only saying this because I know it will make people mad. What I am saying is that John has realized that the game is a fool's game,
yes.
right? Like, and he stopped caring about playing it in a way. So people will be like, I hate that guy. He's such a jerk. And John is, Fortnite dancing,
Yep.
right? Like,
He's dabbing on them fools, and you might think I mean he's ironically dabbing on them fools. No, he's genuinely dabbing on those fools, and they were foolish to put themselves into this position.
Right. And it's the Sigma mindset as well, like Vox Day.
Hmm.
The thing is that I followed John from when he first got into the public eye. Like originally, it was because he was banned from a con, if you remember. I think it was
I
BayCon.
do.
Um, I was following John right from the beginning of all of this. And what people don't realize is that he was not like this initially. Like,
Nope.
it very clearly, like the fact that he was banned from BayCon significantly bothered him. He was very upset by it. He was hurt. It was like he had to learn to, like, you can't let it to you know, what comes to Vox Day naturally, right? Which is you can't let it bother you. It doesn't matter, right? And
Yep.
he did, and that's created what he is today. So if you can turn yourself into a brand like Vox to a lesser extent, because Vox does so many different things that he doesn't, you know, like he doesn't really have one thing that he focuses on, or John to a greater extent, then sure, you can make a living out of it. Brian Niemeyer has his books, but he also sells his editing services, and he's all around. Isaac Young is writing hundreds and hundreds of chapters, you know, and posting them for free, and then building a fan base that way. And
They're
even
pretty
then,
good,
he's
by the way.
constantly. What was that?
I've been. I read. I listened to a couple hours of The Last Human. It's really good.
Yes. Um, Agreed. But yeah, the point is that like Isaac is putting out a ton of work, but if you talk to him about it, he's one of the people who will be like, yeah, I'm never going to achieve mainstream success. To make a living out of this is going to be incredibly difficult. Nobody is pushing my
Hmm.
work, right? Like the fact that somebody as frankly normie as Larry Correa is not going to have an adaptation made of Monster Hunter is insane if you
Yep.
think about it. Like Larry is so normie. Like the most radical thing, the only real reason, to be honest with you, I could think that anybody would have a problem with him is because he really likes guns. And I suspect that that's it. Right?
Yep.
Like, I honestly think that that is literally the only reason that anybody that he's blackballed at all.
Yeah.
It's because he really likes guns. And, you know, I'm like Larry is incredibly successful, but also he got successful in a different generation, already has his fan base. You
Yep.
might go like a full generation. Like, yeah, generations move
No, a
really
full
quickly now.
generation.
Yes, generations move really quickly now. Yes, it was a completely different era of writing. For that matter, Castalia House was founded in a different era of writing. The Sad
Yep.
Puppies thing, that was an entirely different era of writing. It is completely different now. So I think we do need to kind of figure out like what are we going to consider a success? And that needs to come from our motivation. Why are we making these works? What's the point? The answer is should be with all art to glorify God, right?
Hmm.
If we look at it in that way, then yeah, sure, you could be a success. Does your work glorify God? And will you get across to people that it glorifies God? Will they read it and realize like, wow, I understand that how God is being glorified here. It really moves me in that way, right? If so, then you are a success. And this goes to a lesser extent too, though, right? Like this is what I mean by that is if somebody is having fun with your work, just simple fun, that's a subset of glorifying God, right? Because all things are created by God, all good things come from God. You've delivered fun to the world, you've delivered a good thing. There are higher things, sure, but
Yes.
so what? Like, yeah, okay, we could go higher, but creating fun is good. You know, just because you're not going to be making a living off of it doesn't mean that it's a failure. Like I'm doing I published After Camelot. After Camelot's not going to be my big break. It's being published with a small press. It's an indie press. And I'm happy that I'm very, very happy that it got accepted for publication. I'm excited about seeing it in print. I'm excited that I have an editor that I'm going to go over it with. I'm going to do my best to promote it. If I make $1,000 off of After Camelot, that would be a lot.
Yes.
And it would actually help me. I would be happy with it. Probably combined of all of the money I've made over writing, I would probably have made, let's see, somewhere between $300 and $400.
Hmm.
Like, and that's all of my writing that I've ever made. Yeah. But people have read it, people have enjoyed it. I'm not going, we can't really black pill over this stuff. All of this is to say too, that's like part of the corrective here is perspective, that like we are in a world, yes, it is unfortunate what has happened to the world in a very, very real way. The boomers have a lot to answer for. The modern generations really are in a worse position than they should be, or they're in a worse position than they should be, and it's artificially created, and it sucks, and they should have that realization of, hold on a moment, something's not right. The flip side of this is that we should understand that ultimately we can't expect better. Like, the fact that there was better, that was an artificial societal high point in a lot of ways. Not in all ways, these high points, again, we're not Marxists who believe that history is inevitably going up. Society cycles. There have been other high points. Yeah. But most of the time, you're not going to live in that high point. A lot of the time, you're not. Brian Niemeyer has pointed out that we're essentially at a sort of fall of the Roman Empire state. We're no longer in a monoculture. But what is left unstated there is that other cultures have gone through this, right? We're not unique. We're not special. Yeah. This is not people. This has happened to other people before. Yeah. And it will and it's going to happen again. Like, we're not going, this too shall pass, and that too, and what comes next shall pass. So, yeah, we're in a position where the elites have locked us out of the mainstream because the mainstream doesn't really exist, and anything that gets money is being used to push an agenda for evil people. And that's terrible. But the best we could do is what we can do. And complaining constantly about it, as you see, like the Critical Drinker or whatever doing, I sort of get the frustration with it, because the Critical Drinker, like Isaac Young mentioned this, he's absolutely right. The Critical Drinker sees, Disney going, we're trying to bring back Gen Z males. And he's going, gee, I wonder why Gen Z males left. And Isaac Young is like, yeah, okay, that's a very astute observation, Drinker. What's your point? Like, we all know that. Like, you're not saying anything. Like, oh, they want me, gee, I wonder why. Okay, I know why. Now what? Like, tell me now what? And I go easier on the Drinker than some people do, because the Drinker at least had skin in the game, in the sense that he does create. He has novels. As far as I've heard, they're not that great, but I also don't trust the reviews because people want to dislike the Drinker. So I don't know if they're any good or not. I haven't, they didn't seem that interesting to me, so I haven't looked at them. He created a short film that was pretty bad. But he did create one. Him and Mahler put together a Kickstarter where they're going to try and fund movies, right? Like, all of this is to say that I do respect Drinker for putting some skin in the game. I'm willing to give him more of a pass than some people do for that reason. Like, at the very least, if you're going to if you're going to criticize culture like this, you got to open yourself up to criticism as well. And he has. So for that, I respect it. But at the same time, it's also like you have these constant diagnoses from people of what's going on. Mahler's, 12-hour reviews or whatever. And it's like, great, we know what's going on. Now what? What's your point? Like, what do we do with this information? There's got to be something we do with it. And I like watching these reviews. I will sit down and watch them over the course of several days. I find it enjoyable. But that's partially because I do get something out of it. It helps my own writing, at least in some ways, But most people don't see it that way. It's just entertainment to see bad thing mocked, right?
Yep.
Like, And that can be entertaining. And as we've talked about, entertainment is itself a good. But
Mm-hmm.
when that's the culture, that's a problem, because it's the same problem as a culture of like remakes and a culture of sequels, like when our main entertainment is bad thing mocked, becomes like, okay, but what are we creating? What are we going to do about this? Surely we're going to have to do something, right? Like
Yeah.
we can't just leave it like this. I don't know. That's my rant.
Yeah, and it's with it's almost a heavy heart. Like, we love the beautiful old doors. That it's important to us, like the idea of ancient traditions, even though that might seem strange coming from a prot. I do value a certain amount of the ancient traditions. My posts, you may have not have noticed, just because I post a lot. Uh, but like, I've posted about like beautiful women in America, American flag bikinis. This should be the state religion. Why am I saying that? To be transgressive? I'm certainly not doing it for the views. There aren't any. But it's the idea of like, what do we have here? Okay, we have Christianity. All right, all right. But what does America have? America doesn't even have sexy women in a bikini. All right, that at least would be interesting to look at. That at least would have something that you could talk about in the vaguest, most base sense. But in reality, it's like the Constitution's being ignored. Our sacred things, the sacred doors, are being burned. They have been burned, and we're stuck because we're in the twilight of, new thing hasn't happened yet, and old thing is still taking its sweet time to die. Um, and we're not quite in the monster stage. Echidna is pregnant, but by Typhon, but she has not yet issued forth her monstrous brood. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. With Critical Drinker and Mahler, yeah, they do good work. But the fact of the matter is that we're at the point where we need to move things forward in a way that we haven't before, where we need to get into places of power. You need to be power maxing, Machiavellian maxing. If there's an opportunity for you to take in a local city council, you should probably be taking it. I've got some things on my plate that I'm going to be pushing for myself, and we'll see if it actually goes anywhere. And the reason to do that is not some sort of, oh yeah, you want power just like a leftist. Well, first off, yes, you should want power like a leftist if you want to actually change something, but it's that no one's going to come and save us. My salvation is with my sin, not necessarily my physical events. While God's hand is in everything, quite frankly, He expects us to move. And right now, there's a comfortable culture of critique that is not even burning the old doors, but rather keeping people away from it and going, "Oh, look at this! This is the thing we actually want. This is the thing that we need. Nobody's building one. Shut up. Yeah, this door, this beautiful door with George Lucas's signature on it. Uh, you know, this thing that has been stuck with us forever. This is what we want. This is what we need. And you know what? You're absolutely right. It's pretty great to have a series that everyone knows and recognizes. The problem is it's burned down. It's been burnt. It's ashes. You're looking at a picture of it and going, "Oh wow, wasn't this great?" Yeah, it was pretty great. I enjoyed Star Wars. I still have all my Star Wars books. I played through Dark Forces recently. It holds up with the Night Dive remake. Uh, you know, but it's where to next, right? So we've sat around, we've said the things, and the problem is I don't want to talk directly about the things that we're doing that are outside of our art. And the big reason for that is that, one, I don't want to tip off the wrong people, and two, I don't want people to think that they can also do the same thing. So I have to compete against people who might be too dumb to think up stuff on their own. Uh, the not that you, my main audience, is the main one, but I'm talking about random people listening to this. We're already dealing with all these hangers on jumping on AI and flooding every market they can with AI bullshit. I get 10 plus messages a day of the same damn thing. Hi, I would like to get to know you better. And it's a attractive Asian woman from an eroge. Uh, Screw off, Pajit. Haram Singh. I know your game. You know, I used to get I finally finally set up all my anti-spam stuff, which I don't like to do in case I miss a normal call. But it's like I had to finally set up anti-spam because I was getting 5 to 10 calls a day from Indians trying to scam my father because he put his number in a list that got put my number in a list that got leaked for Medicare. Uh, what can you do? Can't do it. You know, stuck. And this isn't a black pill. It's like no. Things need to change. There's changes coming down the pipe. Maybe for Pinkerton's Ghosts, maybe for all my friends, and probably for me too, because I'm probably just going to walk into one of those weddings. By the way, Anthony, I discovered that you're having a wedding. Thank you for telling me.
Wait till you talk to Ken.
I know, right? And I'm just going to pick up one of the bridesmaids. Hey, you married? No. All right, you'll do. And I just walk off with her over my shoulder. Like, this is how it's getting to be. It's like you have to take action. That's it. Like the door's fine. Are you using it as a door? Or is it a lump around your neck? I don't know. What do you think, Anthony?
Sure, why not?
Nerd. You're lucky you're so cute, or I wouldn't have you on the show.
Aww.
Just kidding. I've never put your face up here.
I wouldn't want my face up there. Why do you think I use an anime PFP?
Good job. You're actually one of the most radical anime PFPs on Twitter, but people don't know. People don't know. Every day you get banned. Every day you return stronger than ever.
Yeah, actually on Twitter I do use my real face. But never mind. There you go.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I'm good. We've talked about this a lot before. I'm good to move on. I mean, there's other things that I could bring up that are entirely unrelated just because I'm interested.
I don't know. We've talked for about an hour and a half. I'm pretty done.
Fair enough. This is the last thing that I will say. And this is me quoting my own Twitter. I love the Rats of Nim movie. And the reason, and I love it so much because if you read the book, it's a very faithful adaptation of the book, except that Don Bluth said, yeah, okay, this is a pretty good book, but what if they were wizard rats? And then he made them wizards, and it was awesome. That's not in the book. It has nothing to, like, it's otherwise a completely faithful adaptation. Except in the movie, they're wizards. Great movie. Don Bluth's best. American Tail would be his best, except that one of the songs is terrible. And also, it kind of has some modern leftist kind of slop messaging that I don't really like.
This may come as a shock to you, but those rats are metaphors for the Jewish diaspora. I don't know if you knew this.
I assumed it was common knowledge. Aaron Von Schreek says, congrats on the wedding. In case you didn't know this, we talk every single episode, at least once an episode. Ben says, by the way, when were you going to tell me you were getting married? So if you haven't seen us in a while, you may have missed it. But yes, I get married in December. Thank you. And Ken gets married in September, who is our other Pinkerton's ghostwriter.
Whatever will I do?
We're working on it.
Yep. The scary thing is that apparently there's a betting pool among the bridesmaids, and they're parting me like the Roman soldiers parting the garment of Jesus Christ. It's It's actually quite intimidating. I might be a
If it
hunted
makes you
man.
feel better to believe that, I won't contradict you.
It does make me feel better to believe that, by the way. I will make a simple comment here. Bradford Walker says, principle without power is how we got into this mess. It's absolutely right. We have principles. We need power. I don't think God made us to rot. I don't think God made us to be destroyed. He does make vessels to shatter. However, you never know if you're meant to be the vessel to shatter without trying to rock yourself up. You know what I mean? Rock off the shelf.
Woohoo.
Yeah, there we go. Inspiration. Join us next time. I'm going to try and get a guest. I'm not going to worry too much about it. We have things that we need to do. Uh, and
Yes.
actually we do. Like this is my last quote unquote vacation day. Monday. I gotta get working. Working on Pinkerton's ghosts and other things.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
I'm my summer vacation is over.
mm,
I had a great summer, like unironically. How about you, Ben?
I had a pretty great summer too.
Yeah, published
Uh,
a novel. Got to go on vacation to Chincoteague.
yeah.
Uh, got a new. This was like technically just before the summer, but yeah, got a new apartment. Got I'm steadily employed for the fall for once. Since every summer I seem like I'm not employed for the fall, but no, I'm good. Uh, so all things considered, can't complain.
Mm, excellent. Well, thank you guys for joining us. We'll talk to you later.